According to Ubisoft, buying a game doesn't give players unfettered ownership rights to it, only a limited license to access the game, as if they needed any more PR blunders and nightmares. These comments come as it sought to dismiss a case, according to IGN, brought by two very unhappy crew players who took the company to court, it says, for shutting down its original racing game last year. As IGN states, no version of the 2014 game is playable, whether physical or digital, or even if you already own the game. It's not on the Steam storefront or can be played in any capacity. The servers for the game went dark at the end of March 2024. Its other two offerings in the franchise, the Crew 2 and the Crew Motorfest, did enable players to keep playing offline after those servers were shut down, but nothing was done for the original. The two plaintiffs in the case were Matthew Castle and Alan Liu, who both bought the Crew from GameStop, one in 2020 and in 2018 respectively. And according to the two, they were under the impression that they were paying to own and possess the video game The Crew instead of paying for a limited license to use the Crew. According to the lawsuit, it reads, imagine you buy a pinball machine and years later, you enter your den to go play it, only to discover that all the paddles are missing. The pinballs and bumpers are gone, and the monitor that proudly displayed your unassailable high score is removed. Turns out the pinball machine manufacturer decided to come into your home, got the insides of the pinball machine, and removed your ability to play the game that you bought and thought you owned. Even though you paid full price to receive this game, you never knew that the manufacturer could come in one day and without your control leave you with a skeleton of what you thought you paid for. They also provide images that depict that the activation code for the racing game showed that it does not expire until 2099, which implied to them that the Crew would remain playable during this time and long thereafter. So naturally, Ubisoft disagrees. According to them, in a move to dismiss the claim, they said, quote, plaintiffs allege that the purchased physical copies of the Crew under the belief that they were obtaining unfettered access to the game in perpetuity. Plaintiffs also take issue with the fact that Ubisoft did not offer to create an offline single-player option of the game, otherwise known as a patch, when it shut down the Crew servers in March of 2024. The essence of the plaintiffs' complaint is that Ubisoft allegedly misled purchasers of its video game The Crew into believing they were purchasing unfettered ownership rights in the game, rather than a limited license to access the game. But the reality is that consumers received the benefit of their bargain and were explicitly notified at the time of purchase that they were purchasing a license. And they also said that the Xbox and PlayStation packaging contains a clear and conspicuous notice in all capital letters that Ubisoft may cancel access to one or more specific online features upon a 30-day prior notice. If this motion fails and the lawsuit does proceed, the plaintiffs have demanded a jury trial. And this comes after California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law that forces digital marketplaces to make clear to consumers that when they buy media, they only buy a license to that media. So, of course, Ubisoft steps in it again, and it seems like they are inviting more and more PR blunders and nightmares. The legality of this is that Ubisoft is saying that they had a clear and conspicuous notice in all capital letters that Ubisoft may cancel access to one or more specific online features upon a 30-day prior notice. It says nothing about offline features. And given that the next two in the franchise were patched in a similar fashion, what is stopping Ubisoft from doing it here? This is just a slippery slope for them to then say, hey, you don't own your games at all. And they had said that in the past. And now you're seeing this, that people are getting fed up with these game companies being able to use digital marketplaces to their advantage. Back in the past, they didn't want you to do digital at all, but then they figured out, hey, we can use it to our advantage in order to make sure we can double dip. Meaning, hey, you have to buy the physical copy in order to actually be able to fully be able to play a game without us taking it away from you. Oh, by the way, we're going to release a greatest hits version digitally so you can buy it again. And we're going to take away your ability to play the original one or patch it or whatever. And here's the thing, and I know the late and great Total Biscuit was able to say this so eloquently about consumer rights, and I'm not as eloquent as he was. I wish I was. I am not, unfortunately. But there has to be some end user rights that when you buy a physical copy of a game, or maybe even a digital copy, then you have rights to do what you want to do with that particular copy, with your copy of the game. And there have been legal disputes about renting and ownership of what that means. But remember when the Xbox was trying to do that whole always online thing with their Xbox One and the PS4, when Sony did the E3 press conference, they basically lampshaded the whole thing with Microsoft. They made fun of it and they took advantage of the blood that was in the water. Do you know how that was received? That was received so well that Microsoft had to backpedal on the whole thing, and that might have not been the only thing that made Microsoft backpedal over the whole thing with the rental and all this other stuff, but it certainly didn't help Microsoft in any sort of way. And they thought they could get away with it, and they were told, no, you can't do that. You are allowed to rent games, you're allowed to trade games, you're allowed to sell your copy of a game. And now what we're seeing is that Ubisoft is becoming what Microsoft was in that time span. And now they're getting cheered for it. They're getting lauded for it by people in the media. Obviously, IGN is trying to be as impartial as possible. Sometimes they do fail. Thankfully, we do have at least some people in the gaming media sphere and the legacy media sphere that's trying to do the right thing. But also from the people who have claimed that the only people who are complaining about Assassin's Creed Shadows are those people who don't like having a black protagonist in their game. And no reasonably thinking person is saying that. So I'm not sure where they're getting that from. Maybe some dark corner of the internet, they'll find that one lunatic that will say it to get attention. And they are profiting off of that troll. So I'm not sure where they're getting that. And they're not getting it from any of those rage-baited YouTubers, because they're not saying that either. I know, because I've watched them. And if you don't trust them, you can trust me. You can trust me in saying that I know for a fact they're not saying it that way. So I don't know where they're getting that. But what they should be getting is that player count does not equal copies sold. And that is one of the many blunders that Ubisoft is having. And now this is coming out too. As if they need any other issues at Ubisoft right now. Why do they want to step in the mud? Why do they want to step in the excrement? Why is it that they want these kinds of battles that do nothing but hurt their standing in the terms of public relations? And is this even legal? Is this something in which these two people have a case? Again, buying the physical copy, that should be yours to do what you want to do with it. And that includes playing an offline version of the game. I don't understand where Ubisoft is trying to get away with anything like this. I don't get where even the judges would want for Ubisoft to win in this sort of thing. Where are they seeing the law that dictates that they have the right to do something like this? I mean, just because Ubisoft says, hey, you don't have the license to play this game offline or whatever, doesn't mean that that's what they are allowed to do. They have to go by the same laws that we do. And the consumer should have some kind of rights. Why is it that the consumer rights are being eroded because these big game companies need to have it their way? Why is it that they are too big to fail? So I wish these two people luck, and I don't think this is going to succeed in Ubisoft's case to try to dismiss the case, because where is that slope going to stop sliding? And at what point do the majority of gamers say enough, we're going to take action? And no, it does nothing to defend Ubisoft on this front just because you want to own the chuds. Please stop doing that. Please stop calling us grifters and parrots, because we're not doing that. We're not grifting. We're not parroting anybody. I speak for myself, and I hope I speak for other people. If we need to be mad at somebody, be mad at Ubisoft for not only exploiting people of different races for profit because they need to have their story and pretend that it was historically accurate. No, don't believe that, and don't believe any YouTuber that tries to say that it was accurate, and be mad at them for things like this, because when is enough enough? Maybe the so-called grifters were correct on some things. They've been correct on this one. Definitely correct on this one. Maybe instead of complaining about these rage baiters being a part of the YouTube scene that you have to share, maybe listen to them for a few minutes. Maybe you might hear something you would agree with. This would have bipartisan support, I would hope. And I would hope that some of the Ubisoft fanboys hear what we're saying instead of trying to defend the company that does stuff like this. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Please leave a comment down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And of course, stay true to your mental health. Please keep that well. I will see you for the next one. Until next time, to be continued.